do the movie technique, and you've got this movie that's, how long will we make the movie?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. And do you remember getting into the car?
Yes.
So that's a neutral point?
Yes.
And then you're driving along the Bruce Highway, you said?
Yes.
And you felt that there was a crescendo coming of when you felt like a plank?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to call it, what's the movie called again?
Irrational fear.
Irrational fear. All right. So just start and follow me. Even though, take my glasses off, even though I have this irrational fear movie,
Even though I have this irrational fear movie,
when I felt as stiff as a plank,
when I felt as stiff as a plank,
driving along the Bruce Highway,
driving along the Bruce Highway,
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
Even though I have this irrational fear movie,
Even though I have this irrational fear movie,
this Bruce Highway movie,
this Bruce Highway movie,
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
Even though I still have this irrational fear movie,
Even though I still have this irrational fear movie,
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
This irrational fear movie,
This irrational fear movie,
driving along Bruce Highway,
driving along Bruce Highway,
feeling as stiff as a plank.
feeling as stiff as a plank.
This irrational fear movie,
This irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
driving along Bruce Highway,
driving along Bruce Highway,
this irrational fear movie.
this irrational fear movie.
Take a deep breath. Now, I didn't get a SUDS beforehand, so what was your SUDS level just thinking about the movie?
8.
About 8, and thinking about it now, this irrational fear movie.
5.
So let's just do another round. Even though I still have
Even though I still have
this 5 out of 10
this 5 out of 10
irrational fear movie,
irrational fear movie,
driving down Bruce Highway,
driving down Bruce Highway,
feeling as stiff as a plank,
feeling as stiff as a plank.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
Even though I still have this 5 out of 10
Even though I still have this 5 out of 10
irrational fear movie,
irrational fear movie,
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
Even though I still have this irrational fear movie,
Even though I still have this irrational fear movie,
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
This irrational fear movie,
This irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
driving down Bruce Highway,
driving down Bruce Highway,
this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
feeling stiff as a board,
feeling stiff as a board,
this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie.
this irrational fear movie.
Take a deep breath. And just say this irrational fear movie.
This irrational fear movie.
And what is the SUDS out of 10 now?
4.
4. So when you think of this irrational fear movie, is there anything else that's coming up? We said Bruce Highway and stiff as a plank.
I keep just getting an image of a car wreck.
Okay. This irrational fear movie,
This irrational fear movie,
this image of a car wreck.
this image of a car wreck.
Even though I have these images,
Even though I have these images,
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
I love and accept myself deeply and completely.
Even though I have this irrational fear movie
Even though I have this irrational fear movie
and this image of a car wreck,
and this image of a car wreck,
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
Even though I still have this 4 out of 10
Even though I still have this 4 out of 10
irrational fear movie
irrational fear movie
and this image of a car wreck,
and this image of a car wreck,
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
This irrational fear movie,
This irrational fear movie,
this image of a car wreck,
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 this irrational fear movie,
this irrational fear movie,
this 4 out of 10
this 4 out of a 10
irrational fear movie,
irrational fear movie,
this car wreck image,
this car wreck image,
this remaining emotional fear.
this remaining emotional fear.
What's coming up?
I can almost hear the sound of metal.
And is it taking you back to an actual memory? When you said that this image of a car wreck was coming?
No.
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 But you can hear something.
Mm.
So when you were driving on the Bruce Highway and you felt stiff as a board, it's now tapping into this image of a car wreck and actually hearing the sounds of it.
Yes.
But when you were driving, you didn't have that then? Not consciously?
No.
Okay. So just say out loud, this irrational fear.
This irrational fear.
What is it out of 10? Just the title.
3.
Okay. Because it's also bringing up other stuff, it's probably not getting down as low as I'd like it to before we move on. But because it's already bringing up other stuff, I think we'll move on to starting at a neutral place, right? So before you got into the car, and then noticing when the crescendo is, the first crescendo of that irrational fear coming, or when you said you felt like as stiff as a board. All right? So let's start here. Even though I have this irrational fear,
Even though I have this irrational fear,
getting into the car,
getting into the car,
to drive along Bruce Highway,
to drive along Bruce Highway,
I love and accept myself deeply and
I
completely.
love and accept myself deeply and completely.
Even though I still have this irrational fear,
Even though I still have this irrational fear,
and somewhere it's reminding me of a car crash,
and somewhere it's reminding me of a car crash,
and I can almost hear it,
and I can almost hear it.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
deeply and completely.
deeply and completely.
Even though I have this irrational fear,
Even though I have this irrational fear,
getting in the car,
getting in the car,
to drive along Bruce Highway,
to drive along Bruce Highway,
feeling as stiff as a board,
feeling as stiff as a board,
I love and accept myself deeply and
I
completely.
love and accept myself deeply and completely.
So just tell me what happened after you got in the car.
I was just driving along Bruce Highway and I suddenly I felt fear, felt myself stiffen.
And what does that go up to when you're thinking about that fear in your body?
At that time, 8.
And where are you feeling stiff? Is it your whole body?
My whole body, especially my neck.
Yep. So stiff, and it's fear. Is there any other emotion that's coming up?
It's fear.
Fear. So that fear out of 10, what is it? There's fear in my body and in my neck. Out of 10, yep. When you're thinking about driving down Bruce Highway.
5.
It's about 5 now. So this fear that was in your whole body and your neck. So you can picture yourself in the car.
Yes.
Are there any sounds or sights as you're driving down Bruce Highway?
Just normal traffic whizzing in and out.
Okay. So take a deep breath. So here you are, this irrational fear movie. You get in the car and you're driving down Bruce Highway and you just notice that there's fear in your neck and your whole body and a stiffness. What's that out of 10 now?
4.
4. Is there anything else that's coming up with that?
Yes.
What is it?
I just had a flashback to years ago when I was a child, being in a car. I was sleeping and the car rolled over a few times.
How old were you?
9.
Even though I have this 9-year-old memory,
Even though I have this 9-year-old memory,
that's just flashed back to me.
that's just flashed back to me.
When I was asleep in the car
When I was asleep in the car
and there was a car crash,
and there was a car crash.
did the car roll?
Yes.
And the car rolled.
And the car rolled.
No wonder I have this fear.
No wonder I have this fear.
And stiffness in my body and my
And
neck.
stiffness in my body and my neck.
I still have this 9-year-old trauma trapped there.
I still have this 9-year-old trauma trapped there.
And I love and accept myself.
And I love and accept myself.
And my body.
And my body.
For protecting me.
For protecting me.
But I'm letting it know.
But I'm letting it know.
That it's time to process it now.
That it's time to process it now.
And I love and accept myself.
And I love and accept myself.
Deeply and completely.
Deeply and completely.
Even though I have this 9-year-old flashback.
Even though I have this 9-year-old flashback.
Being asleep in the car.
Being asleep in the car.
And the car rolling.
And the car rolling.
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
And thank my body.
And thank my body.
For bringing it up now.
For bringing it up now.
So we can process it.
So we can process it.
Once and for all.
Once and for all.
Driving along Bruce Highway.
Driving along Bruce Highway.
I've got a stiff neck.
I've got a stiff neck.
My whole body's stiff.
My whole body's stiff.
All this fear.
All this fear.
Flashing back to a 9-year-old.
Flashing back to a 9-year-old.
Being peacefully asleep in the car.
Being peacefully asleep in the car.
And all of a sudden.
And all of a sudden.
There's the shock.
There's the shock.
Of a car crash.
Of a car crash.
I feel it rolling.
I feel it rolling.
I can hear it.
I can hear it.
All this memory flashing back.
All this memory flashing back.
Being held in a trauma capsule all this time.
Being held in a trauma capsule all this time.
Protecting me.
Protecting me.
And now we're processing it.
Now we're processing it.
I thank my body for holding on to it.
I thank my body for holding on to it.
And protecting me.
And protecting me.
But now we're processing it.
But now we're processing it.
Hearing that car accident.
Hearing that car accident.
Feeling the shock.
Feeling the shock.
Processing that car rolling over.
Processing that car rolling over.
All that shock.
All that shock.
That 9-year-old shock.
That 9-year-old shock.
All the sights.
All the sights.
All the sounds.
All the sights.
Feeling myself tumbling.
Feeling myself tumbling.
I'm processing that all now.
I'm processing that all now.
Take a deep breath. So, getting in the car, driving down Bruce Highway, what's the stiffness like in your neck and your body and the fear?
It's better, but I've still got the fear that came up after the accident. Being separated from our family, being taken somewhere with strangers.
So when you think now, so basically what the Bruce Highway one was just reminding you of being in the car, and now it's triggered you to the 9-year-old one, which was the capsule, the trauma capsule. And what we've done is cleared a bit of the actual accident trauma, and now we've gone to the next part. So just going back to the start of the 9-year-old, you're in the car, you're asleep. Do you hear and see anything else coming or feel yourself tumbling? Is there still energy charge around that?
No.
So it's afterwards now?
Yes.
So tell me about afterwards.
Just the fact that I was put into a carload of strangers. I didn't know them. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know why my father wasn't there.
So what's
feeling separated?
I didn't know these people.
I didn't know these people.
I didn't know where I was going.
I didn't know where I was going.
I was separated from my father.
I was separated from my father.
No wonder I had nauseousness in my stomach and my eyes.
No wonder I had nauseousness in my stomach and my eyes.
And fear.
And fear.
In my stomach and my eyes.
In my stomach and my eyes.
I'm willing to process this now.
I'm willing to process this now.
It's safe to process this now.
It's safe to process this now.
This fear of separation.
This fear of separation.
I didn't know these people.
I didn't know these people.
I didn't know where I was going.
I didn't know where I was going.
I was separated from my father.
I was separated from my father.
Processing this fear.
Processing this fear.
Processing this nauseousness.
Processing this nauseousness.
Processing this 9-year-old fear and nauseousness.
Processing this 9-year-old fear and nauseousness.
Take a deep breath. So the Bruce Highway thing's taken care of. So we're going back to the 9-year-old and the car accident. So she's asleep. She's gone through the hearing and the feeling of the tumbling, and then there's that being taken away with people she doesn't know, separated from her father, not knowing where she's going to go. Is anything else coming up around that? Sight, sounds, hearing. What's the subs level there now?
Probably a 2.
Mm-hmm. So going on further, is there anything else that comes up?
A silly thing, I was very concerned that was my hair clean.
Your hair clean. See how the conscious thought comes through completely different because all the emotional charge taken out of them. So now thinking about getting in a car and driving down Bruce Highway, is there any stress or fear or stiffness in the body thinking about that now?
No.
And the 9-year-old? Hearing the screeching or the feeling the tumbling?
No.
No?
No.
That's good then. So see how we went to the trauma capsule?
So did you know about that consciously?
No.
You had no idea that at 9 you were in an accident?
I knew I was in an accident, but it's something I haven't thought of for years.
Mm. And that's what happens is it's protected by this trauma capsule. And that's why I asked what else was coming up, because I sensed something else was coming up. And you said I had this flashback of a car crash. So I knew there was something. There was something there that was being hidden and protected.
Mm.
So it's amazing where it will go.
Are you surprised at that, what just happened?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, I am actually.
Jenny, should I come back?